Washington Post columnist Dana Milbank and MSNBC political analyst and radio talk show host Hugh Hewitt. Dana, first to you. This is the first extensive comments from the president-elect. They were pretty meaty. What did you take away?
Well, I think it's very much in line with what he talked about back during the campaign. He wants to do what he can control, and that is these executive actions, which is going to be a lot of stuff in the regulatory area, immigration, undoing whatever he can of the Obama legacy. The really big things that he wants to get going with, whether that's repealing Obamacare, dealing with immigration in a large way, dealing with tax reform and infrastructure. That's going to require the cooperation of Congress, and they are completely all over the lot on this. So that's going to a lot of that's going to take a good bit more than 100 days, but it'll at least give the appearance that action is being taken, and that's very important to create that appearance.
Hugh, what was your takeaway?
Taking himself out of the TPP, taking the country out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that's big news. That impacts a lot of the world, and it does signal continuing through with his promises. But the big four things he has to do is name a Supreme Court justice. That's the biggest thing he's going to do. And, of course, Defense and Department of Homeland Security. So that was a nice little going around and above the media, a demonstration of force after his somewhat touchy meeting with the media yesterday. But it's the appointments that matter the most, especially the Supreme Court.
Let's talk about what he didn't reference. Dana, he didn't talk about Obamacare repeal. He didn't talk about the border wall, tax code, or the Iran nuclear deal. Were you surprised?
Well, that's what I was saying, is he's focusing on the things that he can control at this point, and it's going to, all of these things are going to be very contentious with Congress, or in the case of the Iran nuclear deal, it's not entirely clear what he wants to do, and he needs to sound out allies who are very much alarmed by this. So, again, it's the, and he was talking about the appointments, also an important part, the executive actions, things that will give the appearance that the country is taking a fundamentally different direction. Now, it may not actually be true in matters of substance. There's only so much he can do without the legislature, but he needs to create that, at least the illusion of making change.
In terms of noise versus substance, Hugh, I want to ask you, MSNBC is reporting that Donald Trump will not pursue an investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. Does that surprise you, given what a focus it was for him during the campaign?
No, I think it's prudential on his part. Now, that doesn't answer whether or not Attorney General Jeff Sessions is going to have to do some internal cleanup work at DOJ. There are a lot of questions that have been raised that actually have to be answered because they were posed by Senator Grassley in an official inquiry of the Department of Justice. So Attorney General Sessions, and he'll be confirmed rather easily, is going to have to decide whether or not to conduct that internal review and how to answer. But I think it's good politics for President Trump to look forward, not backwards. Absolutely the right move.
Dana, there's a new poll out today showing that 53% of Americans do believe that Donald Trump will do a fairly good job as president. Is that basically the public saying, listen, we know there's conflicts of interest arising, we know there could be issues, but let's be optimistic and see what he does?
Well, I think there's a rallying effect that always occurs here. And, of course, everybody, even those who strongly oppose Trump, want him to succeed in the sense that if he fails, the country fails. So you see a lot of things pushing forward in that direction. Also, you have not yet begun to see the beginning of the conflicts that inevitably will occur.
A conflict of interest, is it a conflict if people aren't unhappy? Hugh, to you, if Donald Trump brings jobs back and fulfills some of the promises that he agreed to, are people going to be okay with his business?
Well, I think that the media is really overplaying his hand on this conflict story, Stephanie. I was in the White House counsel's office.
Hold on a second. Hold on. How are we overplaying that the president-elect, who has said, my business doesn't matter, it's all about being the president, and in the first few days, he meets with Indian business partners who are working on a hotel in Mumbai? How am I
happy to explain? I'm happy to explain. I served in the White House counsel's office. A president-elect has 60 days to appoint a White House counsel. I think it's going to be Don McCann at Jones Day. He assembles a team of 7 or 8 lawyers, and they come up with a complicated but eventually workable plan to handle conflicts. It is not wrong. There is nothing illegal about meeting with your business partners. It goes on all the time when presidents are making transitions. They have to get some rules in place, and I think the media's hysteria over what might happen, as opposed to focusing focusing on what will happen, a Supreme Court appointment, or fake news, like the New York Times today running a fake news story about widespread concern about him bringing generals into the government. I think the media is on thin ice with the American people, very thin ice, and that they ought to just, as David Brooks said today, dial it back, wait and see. If he screws up, I'll be the first to say it. Dana will be the first to say it. But right now, I think the American public is very skeptical of the pile-on that's going on.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. It is our job to raise people's awareness of conflicts that could arise, because, as you said, we are waiting to see who he appoints to the Supreme Court and see who he appoints to the White House. All right, we got to leave it there.